Have you ever sat in silence and wondered why you love your child so deeply, sacrificing so many years to care for them, yet the older they grow, the farther they seem from you? At times, you feel your child no longer listens, no longer respects, no longer shows gratitude for what you have done. You ask the same question that many parents today carry in their hearts. I raised my child with kindness, so why has my child become so rebellious? This is not the question of anger, but of a heart exhausted from loving without being understood. In the past, when your child was small, a gentle word was enough for them to listen. They would run to you to share every little story, fall asleep in your arms, look at you with eyes full of trust. But now, when you say something, they argue back. When you remind them, they snap. When you worry, they shut the door and refuse to talk. Some parents sit in the night, watching their child sleep with tears falling. Not because the child is bad, but because they do not know where they went wrong. They cannot understand why the obedient child of yesterday has become a stranger in their own home. In today's society, children bear too much pressure. Academic pressure, pressure of comparison, pressure to excel, to be strong, to keep up with peers. Yet the most painful pressure is not outside but within the family itself. Some children are wounded not by strangers, but by the careless words of their parents. Some grow silent because they are not heard. Some grow stubborn because no one understands the fear in their hearts. And some become rebellious simply to prove to their parents that they have a voice of their own. Have you ever felt powerless when your child refuses to listen despite all your words? Have you ever shouted and then regretted it? Have you ever struck your child and then sat alone in tears, loving them but not knowing how to teach? Have you ever wondered why parents only want the best for their children, yet the children misunderstand? Why parents love with all their hearts, yet the children resist? Is it fate? Is it karma? The Buddha teaches that children do not belong to their parents. They come to us through a bond of destiny. If there is affinity, we meet. If there is karma, we are tied. A child comes into this life not to follow our will, but to walk their own path. Parents are blessed to have children, but they also carry karma, which is why they meet their children in such ways. Some children are gentle, like little bodhisattvas. Some are stubborn like stone. Some are born to repay kindness. Some are born to repay debts. And some are born to collect debts. When we understand this, we see that a rebellious child is not a punishment, but a lesson for the parent. The pain of parents is not because the child is bad, but because parents love too much without knowing how to love wisely. We think love means caring for every detail. But love without wisdom easily becomes attachment. Attachment that the child must be obedient according to our will, must succeed according to our standards, must listen because parents are always right. When attachment grows, we unknowingly place a burden on the child's shoulders, and the child resists to escape that weight. It is not that they hate their parents. They only want to be themselves. In many families, parents love through worry, while children love through the longing for freedom. These two ways of loving differ, so two hearts touch but fail to understand each other. Parents say, "I only want you to be better," but the child hears, "You don't trust me." Parents say, "You must obey," but the child hears, "You cannot be yourself." The more parents try to teach, the more the child closes off. And the distance grows like a crack in a mirror, distorting more the longer you look. But dear one, no child is born wanting to hurt their parents. They simply do not know how to express their fear, sadness, and pressure. A child needs to be understood before being taught. A child needs to be loved with peace, not with expectation. The Buddha said, "If you wish to transform others, you must first transform yourself." This means that if you want your child to listen, you must first be calm. If you want your child to be less angry, you must first be less angry. If you want your child to know how to listen, you must first know how to listen. The parent's heart is the soil. The child's heart is the seed. If the soil is peaceful, the seed will sprout. Today, let us go deeper into the Buddha's teaching to understand why children become rebellious and how parents can help them transform. Without scolding, without shouting, without pressure. Let us look at our children again with eyes of understanding and compassion. And when our vision changes, the child will naturally change. When looking at a child who is rebellious, argumentative, quick-tempered, or defiant, parents often think the child is bad. But from the perspective of the Dharma, no child is inherently bad. Every behavior has deep causes. In karma, in circumstances, in the way parents love, and in the very energy that the household carries. The Buddha taught that children do not come into our lives by chance, but through karmic bonds across many lifetimes. Some children come to repay kindness. Some come to repay debts. Some come to reclaim debts we once sowed in the past. When a child is too stubborn, difficult to teach, often it is because the karma between parent and child has not yet been resolved. That child is not bad, they are simply bringing us a lesson. Long ago, during a Dharma talk, a mother knelt before the Buddha and asked why her son was so disrespectful. She loved him wholeheartedly, yet the more she loved, the farther he grew. The Buddha looked at her gently and said, "You cannot see the past, so you think the present is everything. But your son was once someone to whom you owed a debt. Now he comes to collect by teaching you patience and understanding." Hearing this, the mother wept, not from sorrow but from relief. For when we know suffering has a cause, we no longer feel it is unjust. Beyond karmic ties, a major reason children are hard to teach lies in the way parents love without understanding. We love with want, not with see. We want the child to be obedient according to our will. We want the child to excel according to our expectations. We want the child to listen because we believe we are right. When love is tied to demands, the child feels controlled. And when controlled, the child resists. Resistance is not because they do not love their parents, but because they cannot bear the feeling of being forced to live within a mold their parents created. The Buddha taught in the Dhammapada, attachment gives rise to sorrow, attachment gives rise to fear. Love without wisdom breeds worry, sadness, and disappointment. Many parents see their child as bad, without realizing the root of their pain lies in attachment to the idea of, "My child must be like this." When we cling to the image of an obedient child, any deviation causes us pain. The more possessive our love, the farther the child drifts. And the farther they drift, the more pressure we place upon them. This cycle continues until both sides are exhausted. Another cause of defiance is the ego of parents. Many parents believe they are right because they are older, more experienced, more sacrificial. This is not wrong, but when parents speak from "I am right," the child hears, "I am being forced." The louder the parent speaks, the more the child withdraws. The more the parent imposes, the more the child wants to break free. The ego of the parent unintentionally creates the ego of the child. And when two egos collide, the relationship explodes like two stones striking each other. In many families, parents think a child is disrespectful when they argue back. But from the child's perspective, it is simply self-defense. They defend themselves because they are not heard. They defend themselves because they cannot express their emotions. They defend themselves because they fear being misunderstood. When parents speak in anger, the child's heart closes. When parents speak in worry, the child's heart grows anxious. When parents speak in love but without understanding, the child's heart feels pressured. Thus, the child is not truly hard to teach. Their heart is simply trapped. Moreover, the energy within the family strongly affects the child. A home where parents constantly quarrel breeds a child quick to anger. A home filled with anxiety produces a sensitive, withdrawn child. A home lacking love creates a cold child. Parents are the first field of energy a child absorbs. children do not learn by words. They learn by the atmosphere parents radiate. If parents are not at peace, how can the child be at peace? If parents are not gentle, how can the child be gentle? There is a very real story. A 12-year-old boy was addicted to games, dropped out of school, and often shouted. His parents beat him repeatedly, but nothing changed. One day, instead of scolding, the father sat beside him and softly said, "I know you are suffering from something. Can you tell me what it is?" The boy was silent for a while, then cried. He said he could not study, he feared failure, and he played games to forget the feeling of being useless. From that day, the family changed their way of living. No more shouting. No more forcing. Only listening. A year later, the boy gradually transformed, not because of the rod, but because his heart was opened. In the Agama Sutras, a similar story is told. There was a rude child no one could teach. The Buddha did not scold, but looked at him with boundless compassion. He placed his hand on the child's head and said, "You are suffering, aren't you?" The child was silent, then burst into tears. From that day his nature changed, not out of fear but because he was understood. The Buddha taught that with children harsh words have no effect. Only understanding and patience can truly transform them. When we look deeply, we see that the cause of rebellion is not simply badness. The child is a mirror reflecting the parent's heart. The child is a karmic bond sent to help us grow. And the child is an opportunity for us to learn to love with wisdom, rather than with expectation. Another major reason children become difficult to teach is family karma. The Buddha taught that parents and children do not meet only in this lifetime. We meet our children because of past karmic bonds. Sometimes that bond is gratitude, sometimes it is debt, sometimes it is resentment. A child who is more stubborn, more defiant, and causes parents greater suffering is often sharing with them an unresolved karma from the past. It is no accident that within the same family, one child may be gentle while another is extremely difficult. Each carries their own karma and also a shared karma with their parents. Karma is not a rigid fate. It is the habits and imprints from many lifetimes that we have not yet transformed. A child raised in a family with a tradition of anger will find it harder to remain calm than others. A child born into a household full of anxiety will have a heart more unstable, more reactive. Some children are difficult to raise from birth, not because their bodies are weak, but because their karmic mind is more sensitive. When parents do not understand this, they think the child is stubborn. But if we look deeply, we see the child is carrying an invisible burden that parents cannot see. The Buddha once told of a child in ancient times who was unruly, destructive, and dreaded by the whole village. The father brought him to the Buddha for guidance. The Buddha looked at the child and said that in a previous life he had been hot-tempered, mischievous, and enjoyed disturbing others. That seed had not been transformed, so in this life he was reborn as a difficult child. But the Buddha added that if parents sow love and patience into his heart, the wholesome seeds will gradually grow stronger. This shows that karma is not something to fear, but something to understand and transform. Many parents ask, if a child's behavior is due to karma, are we powerless? No. The Buddha taught that karma can be transformed through three paths: body, speech, and mind. When parents change their actions, words, and thoughts, the karma between parent and child also begins to change. A child raised in a home of shouting will grow with seeds of anger. A child raised in a home of gentle speech will grow with seeds of kindness. Karma is nourished daily by the actions and energy of parents. This means parents always have the ability to transform their child's karma, but it must begin with themselves. Another crucial truth is that children do not listen when parents speak in anger. When parents are hot-tempered, the child's brain shuts down and cannot receive information. Children sense energy before they hear words. Even if you speak the truth, if spoken in anger, the child resists. Even if you speak gently, if your heart is anxious, the child feels uneasy. Science calls this a psychological reaction. Buddhism calls it karmic resonance between parent and child. Both are correct. Anger breeds anger. Worry breeds worry. Peace breeds peace. Many parents believe hitting will make a child obedient. But in reality, hitting only teaches fear, not wisdom. Fear may silence a child in the moment, but it plants seeds of resentment in the heart. As the child grows, those seeds sprout into distance and defiance. The Buddha never taught, use fear to transform. He always used compassion and wisdom. He never forced anyone. He listened, understood, and guided them toward the light. Teaching children is the same. Do not use fear, do not use force, use understanding and love. In many families, parents think they teach well because they speak a lot. But children do not learn by words. They learn by watching how parents live. If parents are angry, the child is angry. If parents lie, the child lies. If parents break promises, the child loses trust. If parents are gentle, the child softens. A father may want to teach his child not to shout, yet every day he uses shouting to teach. The child does not obey the father. The child imitates him. True education lies not in words but in the life of the adult. Another reason children are hard to teach is the broken connection between parent and child. In modern life, parents are busy, while children are absorbed in phones, games, and the internet. Both exist in the same house but do not meet heart to heart. When the child wants to share, parents are busy. When parents want to talk, the child withdraws. Gradually, the child's small voice is no longer heard, so they must raise their voice to be noticed. That loud voice is seen as disrespect. But in truth, it is the cry of a lonely heart. A real story illustrates this. A 15-year-old girl often argued with her mother, shut her door, and refused anyone into her world. The mother thought her stubborn and grew more pressured. One day in class, the girl wrote on a piece of paper, "I am not bad, I am just sad because my mother never listens to me." This is the voice of many children. They do not resist to destroy their parents. They resist to be seen, understood, acknowledged. When parents only look at outward behavior without seeing the inner suffering, the distance grows. The Buddha once said something profound: "The one who makes us suffer is the one who helps us see ourselves." A child makes us angry, not to make us angry but to reveal our anger. A child makes us tired, not to exhaust us but to show us our limits. A child comes into our life to reflect the parts of our mind not yet tamed. In moments of defiance, we see our own anger. In moments of disobedience, we see our own attachment. In moments of argument, we see our own ego in teaching. The child is a mirror for parents to grow. Thus, teaching a child is not only educating them but also educating ourselves. When we understand these roots, we no longer see the child as a problem. We see them as a karmic bond, an opportunity to learn love, understanding, and letting go. And only when parents transform, the child will change, not through force but through touching the heart. Once we understand the causes of a child's defiance, the next step is to learn how to transform the relationship between parent and child with wisdom and compassion. The Buddha never taught that raising children requires hitting, scolding, or harshness. He taught that to influence others, we must first illuminate our own hearts. The parent's mind is the lamp. The child is the room. When the lamp shines, the room is bright. When the lamp is dark, the room is dim. True education begins in the inner life of the father and mother. Lesson 1. Learn to understand your child. Understand before teaching. Understand before correcting. A stubborn child is not trying to make parents suffer. A child who argues is not ignorant. They are simply protecting themselves from fear of judgment or pressure. Many parents think defiance means lack of love, but in truth, every child loves their parents deeply. Their way of showing it just changes as they grow. When parents realize this, their hearts soften. And when the heart softens, the child naturally draws closer. Lesson 2. Restrain your own mind before correcting your child. The Buddha taught, "No one bathes twice in the same river." The child of today is no longer the child of yesterday. They have grown with their own thoughts, feelings, and struggles. If parents keep using old methods on a new child, the child will resist. Before teaching anything, parents should take a slow breath to recognize the state of their own mind. If angry, even true words will be rejected. If anxious, even gentle words will cause tension. Only when parents speak from a calm heart will the child open to listen. Lesson 3. Listen with the heart. True listening is when we are silent yet our heart remains open, without judgment, without interruption, without comparison. Many children stop talking to parents not because they don't want to, but because each time they share, parents react too quickly. The child says, "I'm tired." Parents reply, "What's there to be tired about?" The child says, "I'm sad." Parents say, "That's nonsense." The child says, "I'm under pressure." Parents respond, "At your age we had it 10 times harder." Such words close the child's heart little by little. To reopen it, parents must learn to listen without judgment. A simple practice has transformed many families. Each evening, parents and children spend 10 minutes together. No phones. No TV. Just 2 gentle questions. What made you happy today? What made you sad today? The child speaks, parents listen. Parents speak, the child listens. That alone shortens the distance remarkably. Understanding does not require grand gestures. It begins with simple words. Lesson 4. Put yourself in your child's place. At 10, a child has the suffering of 10. At 15, the worries of 15. At 17, pressures parents may not imagine. We often say, "At your age we had it harder." That may be true, but times differ and so do struggles. Parents suffered from scarcity. Children suffer from competition, expectations, and constant comparison. When parents understand their child's context, they see the child is not bad. They are simply struggling with a world they do not yet know how to face. Another essential practice is creating space for the child to be themselves. Many parents set too many standards, making the child feel they are never good enough. When judged too often, the child fears failure and resists as self-defense. But if parents create an environment where the child can make mistakes and still be loved, the child will open their heart. The Buddha taught, "The mind only opens when it feels safe." To help a child change, parents must first make them feel safe within their own home. When these lessons are applied, something miraculous happens. The child who was stubborn yesterday becomes gentle today. Not because of scolding, but because of understanding. Not because of force, but because of love expressed in the right way. Children do not change through fear. They change when touched by sincerity. The next lesson is to teach children with consistency. Children do not listen to what parents say, they listen to what parents do. If parents teach kindness but often speak ill of others, the child will learn to gossip. If parents teach calmness but lose control when things go wrong, the child will learn anger. A father may tell his child not to be addicted to the phone, yet if he spends every night glued to it, the child will not believe him. Consistency is not perfection. It is the effort to live in alignment with what we want our children to become. Another small but often overlooked lesson is praise. Some children grow up without ever hearing genuine praise from their parents. Not because parents do not love them, but because they fear praise will spoil them. Yet the Buddha taught that kind words can soften another's heart like rain softens dry soil. A timely word of praise can open a child's heart and help them feel worthy enough to try harder. Praise is not indulgence. It is nourishment for confidence. When a child feels valued, they resist less and listen more. Another important lesson is teaching through presence. Many parents sit beside their children but their minds are elsewhere. The child speaks but the parent does not truly hear. The child feels sad but the parent does not notice. Children are sensitive. They know when parents are truly present and when they are only there in body. 1 minute of genuine presence is worth more than an hour of distracted company. When parents look into their child's eyes and ask, "Are you okay?" that question is more powerful than any moral lecture. In Buddhism, there is the concept of mindfulness. Mindfulness in parenting means being fully present with the child in that moment, without judgment, without wandering thoughts, without bringing anger from work to pour onto the child. When parents are mindful, the child feels safe. And when the child feels safe, their mind is calm enough to listen. Without mindfulness, every lesson passes like the wind. Another lesson is distinguishing between teaching and controlling. Teaching is guiding the way. Controlling is forcing someone to walk the path we choose. Teaching builds inner strength. Control breeds weakness and resistance. When parents over-control, children will seek escape, sometimes through negative behaviors. But when parents know how to let go at the right time, children self-adjust. It is like holding a bird in your hand. Grip too tightly and you break its wings. Hold gently and it stands firm. There is a story. A boy was very talented at painting, but his parents forced him to study medicine, believing art had no future. He grew sad, resistant, and his studies declined. His parents thought he was bad, but no one asked what he truly wanted. One day he ran away. When found, his father cried and said, "I only want you to have a good life." The boy replied, "I only want to be myself." When the father understood, he changed his approach. He stopped forcing and began to accompany. The boy, once difficult, became a successful artist. The story teaches that sometimes what a child needs is not a bright path, but someone who believes in them enough to let them walk it. Another profound lesson is to see children with the eyes of impermanence. A child who was obedient yesterday may not be today. A child who resists today will not resist forever. Every mind can change. Every temperament can transform. When parents label their child bad, stubborn, hopeless, that label stays in the child's heart and shapes their self-image. When a child believes they are bad, they act accordingly. But if parents believe the child can change, the child gains motivation to truly change. In raising children, the most important thing is not to see them as a burden. When parents see their child as a problem to be solved, the child feels it and reacts. But if parents see the child as a karmic bond, an opportunity to learn and grow together, the child softens. The Buddha taught that everyone we meet is our teacher. Children are no exception. Often they teach us more than we teach them. Patience, letting go, listening, and recognizing our own limits. When we see our child as teacher, our anger lessens and our understanding grows. A Buddhist story tells of a father who loved his son deeply but was too strict. The older the son grew, the farther he drifted. After hearing the Buddha's teaching on compassion and non-self, the father realized he had been raising his son through his own ego. He wanted his son to succeed so he could be proud. He wanted his son to be obedient so he could be praised. Teaching through ego brings suffering. Teaching through compassion brings peace. From that day he changed. He stopped forcing and began listening. Within months, his son transformed completely, not because the father spoke better but because he lived more gently. The final lesson in this section is building shared merit within the family. Merit does not only come from charity or giving. Merit also comes from how we treat one another. A family grounded in love, mindfulness, and respect generates great merit. That merit nurtures children into kindness and wisdom. When a family has merit, the child's negative karma is easier to transform. When a family lacks merit, even a good child may face difficulties. Thus, raising children is not only about teaching them, it is about rebuilding the spiritual environment of the family. My dear friend, if we look back on this whole journey, we will see that the suffering between parents and children is not meant to divide, but to awaken. A child does not come to exhaust us. A child comes to help us grow. We do not come to bind our children. We come to learn how to love them with wisdom. Every misunderstanding, every argument, every tear holds a hidden lesson, if only we are quiet enough to see it. In every close relationship, the most important lesson is not to fix the other, but to return and transform ourselves. When our mind is calm, our words are gentle. When our words are gentle, the child opens their heart. When the child opens their heart, education becomes companionship, no longer a battle between two egos. The Buddha taught that to transform the world, we must first transform our own mind. When parents change, children change. When parents learn to love rightly, the karma between parent and child begins to dissolve. The moment we pause, take a slow breath, and look at our child with understanding eyes, the long stream of karma can be transformed. No need for heavy doctrines. No need for long lectures. Just a kind gaze, a gentle word, a heart truly present. That is Buddhism in daily life. That is teaching with mindfulness. Remember that the child is also learning to grow, to live, to become human. They will stumble, make mistakes, be hurt, resist. But that is part of the journey. Do not wait until they are perfect to love them. Love them right in their clumsiness, for it is in those moments they need us most. If one day you feel exhausted by your child, sit down, place your hand on your chest, and breathe. Inhale, knowing you are suffering. Exhale, knowing you are embracing that suffering with gentleness. When we embrace ourselves, our heart softens. When we soften, the child feels it. A family does not need many words of teaching, only many breaths of understanding and love. Let go of heavy expectations. Your child is not a perfect version of you. They are a soul walking their own path. Parents are companions, not controllers. When we understand this, disappointment lessens, pressure eases, and love grows. In the Dharma it is said, the wise do not ask, how can my child change? They ask, how can I become a safe harbor for my child to return to? When we are a safe harbor, the child naturally comes back. No need to force, no need to pull. Peace has its own power of attraction. If today your child is rebellious, defiant, not listening, do not despair. That is not a sign of a bad child, but of a child struggling with their own mind. What they need is not punishment, but someone who understands them enough to stay by their side. Wise love does not ask, where are you wrong, but asks, where are you hurting? When that answer is found, the journey of transformation begins. Finally, return to the breath. The breath is where parents find clarity and where children find safety. Inhale slowly, knowing you still have the chance to learn together. Exhale gently, grateful that you still have each other in this life. All suffering will pass, only understanding and love remain. When we love our child with peace, they will grow with peace. When we plant seeds of understanding today, tomorrow they will blossom into a person who knows how to love. Looking back, we will see that the difficult days were not barriers, but the very material that nourished deeper bonds. Believe that no suffering is meaningless. No child is hopeless. No family is beyond transformation. All it takes is one person to begin to understand, and the whole family will change. If you are that person, you are creating great merit for your entire lineage. Inhale and smile to your child. Exhale and smile to yourself. For you are learning to love, and your child is learning to love. And that is the most beautiful gift parents and children can give each other in this impermanent life.